Hello, saints of God. Thank you so much for tuning in again to another edition of our position transition word. God, we thank God for every revelation that He's given us. And today will be no different. Today I'm going to give you a word that you can use as a tool. I like the word tool rather than weapon. But it could be, depending on how you conceptualize it, you could say it's a weapon. But I think of it more as a tool, something to help you work on something that will help you grow and cultivate something. And we're going to pull from Romans 12 into very, very familiar passage of scripture that we have gone over so many times and probably will go over many more in the future. But in that passage of scripture, you hear the word say, or you hear Paul say, for us not to be conformed to the world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And he goes on to talk about this transformation will cause us to prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. We're still in the vein of being on proving ground. God using things to prove us. God using situations. God using avenues, opening up opportunities that will cause us to know where we stand, who we are, and what our purpose is. God will prove us. And according to this particular passage of scripture, it has a purpose. He wants the world to know what His will is, and that His will is good, that His will is acceptable, and that His will is perfect. And the tool I want to give you today, we're going to look at how we can transform. We're going to use this tool as a way to help us transform and renew our minds. Now, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Listen to what God spoke to me this week. And I had a situation to come up. It was something that happened, and it offended me. And I got offended. Thank God I have grown some to the point where my offense didn't take me to a certain place where I had to go back and do a lot of repenting. I thank God for that. Later on, you know how something will offend you and it keeps playing in your mind, especially if it offended you and you felt that you did not respond the way you may have should have responded or wanted, or I even say wanted to respond. You knew your response would not be something that would please God, so you didn't do it. And so a person walks away thinking they have gotten the better of you. And you know, we as human beings, we don't like to feel like we've been used, we've been handled. So this situation plays over in my mind. When I was able to go to the Father, and this is what I've learned to do when situations come up, I go right to my Father and I begin to entreat Him to give me revelation. And I wanted to know to God what happened. And He said this to me. He said, He used the analogy of the caterpillar and the butterfly. But He didn't focus on the caterpillars per se or the butterfly per se. He focused on the stage where the caterpillar has wrapped himself in the cocoon. When I did my research on it, a few of the sites had some very interesting information. And this information tied to this particular passage of scripture that we're going to talk about for a few minutes. And according to the history, or according to the scientific way that caterpillars transform into butterflies, we know that they start out as caterpillars. The caterpillars get on a leaf, they wrap themselves in a silky mass, and we call it a cocoon, right? Well, inside this cocoon, the caterpillar will disintegrate into what scientists call a soup, S-O-U-P. And until now, people have always thought it was a complete disintegration, and it would become a soup. And after so many days, it would go through various things inside the soup, and when it comes out on the other side, it's a butterfly. But listen to the information. They say now they've discovered that everything about the caterpillar does not disintegrate. There is still a soup, but everything doesn't disintegrate. The eyes don't, and what you see, the little antenna or the little tentacles, they don't disintegrate. And God began to speak to me about it. And he said, the reason being is even in that state of disintegration, there is a way for us to be discerning. And this is what he said that struck me. He said when the caterpillar is in the caterpillar stage, they are subject to what is around them. They are subject to anything that is on the ground with them. They're subject to the storms of the atmosphere and all of that. But when they wrap themselves in the cocoon, the only atmosphere they're subject, or the only environment they're subject to, is the environment inside that cocoon. The only thing they have to deal with at that point is what's in them, their makeup, that has disintegrated. And the question that he asked me is, what is in your soup? It stung me. It struck me. He said, this is one of the reasons that help or hinder our transformation. We go into the cocoon. We let things disintegrate. But it's what's inside us that we don't fully deal with. Whatever was in that caterpillar when he wrapped himself in that cocoon is what's in his soup. And what he made me to know was, I'm trying to develop you to a place where you're ready for your next level. And there are some things that I need to make sure that you are released from and have been delivered from before you come out on the end as ready. So I'm going to allow certain situations to happen so that you can look at what you are dealing with and figure out what's in my soup. That's a great question. Ask yourself, what's in my soup? Why do I respond to what's around me the way I do? Why am I so defiant? Why am I so afraid? Why is it that things that I know and I tell people that God told me to do, and I'm so disobedient that I haven't done it? What is your truth? Why do you react? It deals with you. What's in your environment? Because in the cocoon, it doesn't matter how much rain is falling. It doesn't matter how dry it is. What we're dealing with now is what we have disintegrated into and what is in our soup. Because what's in our soup is what's going to come out on the other end. Perhaps that's the hindrance. It's not that you don't have the right opportunities. How have you reacted to the opportunities? Have you even recognized them? What's in your soup? What is your discernment telling you? Are you developed in the place of discernment that you're ready for God to use you? That you're ready to overtake those things that God has given you? Perhaps you need to check your soup and see what's in that cocoon. What is on the inside of you? What is it that is causing you not to move forward into the things of God? It's not your enemy. It's not even the devil. It's what's in your soup. It's what's in you. When you go in and try to be what God has called you, how do you react to the adversity? Do you count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptation? And if not, why can't you? Do you rejoice and be exceedingly glad when people are persecuting you? If not, what's in your soup that's hindering you? Because everything I just said is the word. Can you actually bless those who curse you? Can you turn the other cheek? And if the answer to these questions is, I don't think so, then you need to examine what's in your soup. Offenses are going to come according to the word. But it's what's in your soup that's going to cause you to react to the things around you. When you learn how to handle what's in your soup, then you'll see your environment change. Your environment will not change until you handle what's in your soup. God bless you, and I'll see you next week.